This shit hot.
What's going on, everybody? Today I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about electric dirt bikes versus gas. I'm going to talk from personal experience, the Surron versus my YZ450FX. But yeah, just kind of in general as well, electric versus gas bikes. I know the Surron might not be considered an electric dirt bike. It's kind of a cross between an e-bike and a dirt bike. But for these purposes, I'm just going to use it as a direct comparison. So the first thing I want to talk about is price, and I'm just going to do a brand new price comparison. So for a brand new Surron, it's about $4,500 depending on what website or store you get it from. And then for a brand new 2023 YZ450FX, it's going to run you about 10 grand. So just right there is a huge price difference, understandably, but definitely something to consider if you're trying to decide between the two. So obviously the Surron is a lot cheaper for many reasons. It's less powerful and it's a lot smaller of a bike. It's not necessarily able to be used for the same exact things that a full-size dirt bike like a 450 is. But definitely something to consider if you're trying to decide between one or the other, because the Surron's about half price of a brand new 450, at least a Yamaha 450. And then point number two, the next thing I want to talk about is the power difference between the Surron and a 450. So obviously there's going to be a huge difference in power, but also weight. So you got to look at that. The Surron weighs about 120 pounds. Probably has the power of about a 125 four-stroke, I would say. So it feels powerful for its weight, but the YZ is definitely tons and tons more powerful. It weighs about 2 times as much, but the power is much more than 2 times as much. So overall the YZ is going to feel a lot more peppy and powerful, so you got to think about that as well. And the third point I wanted to talk about with you guys to consider when comparing a Surron versus the YZ450 is going to be the maintenance. So anyone that knows about dirt bikes knows that 450s are pretty maintenance intensive. Oil changes all the time, every 5 to 10 hours is what I do. The chains wear out fast. You gotta replace the piston. The increment on that kind of just depends on your use case, but gas engines tend to be more maintenance heavy than like an electric motor. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider. And then as far as the Surron goes, there's not really any maintenance on it besides normal things that are going to be on both bikes. So the chain, tires, and pretty much that's all the routine maintenance you have to do. As things break, you'll have to replace them, as on both. Overall, the Surron has a lot less maintenance than a dirt bike, so if you don't want to be tinkering with your bike all the time, or not often at least, then the Surron is definitely, that's a good point to get a Surron. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about when comparing the Surron versus the YZ450 is going to be the use case. So this is what's going to be most important when deciding if you're going to decide between one or the other, and really any gas dirt bike versus the Surron. So yeah, it's going to depend on what you want to use the bike for. I'll list the good points and good use cases for the Surron, and then I'll list the use cases for the YZ. So the Surron, the first thing is it's quiet, so you can ride it anywhere and be really low key. So if you're looking to ride around and not get a lot of attention, not get the cops looking at you too much, then the Surron is definitely better for that. The Surron is also really good for riding in small areas because it is so small, super maneuverable, and it's a lot more easier to just take out and have fun with. It doesn't feel as serious as a full-size 450. And I'm speaking from the point of view of someone that uses their bikes mostly for wheeling, so take that into account as well. I've taken the Surron trail riding a little bit, and it's pretty good for that as well. Definitely not as capable as the dirt bike just because the tires are so much smaller. It does have less power, and it doesn't have as much ground clearance too, so that's something to keep in mind as well. And then as far as the 450 goes, It's really a good all-around bike. The main differences compared to the Surron is it's a gas bike, so obviously it's going to make a good amount of noise, really loud. You're not going to be able to stay too low key with it. It's good for riding on the street if you make your street legal. I made mine street legal, and it definitely has the power to keep up on higher speed limit roads, so that's a pro as well. And then of course, trail riding it has tons of power, a lot of ground clearance, sometimes a little too much power for trail riding. You just got to learn to manage it. But yeah, that's mainly what the 450 is going to be good for. So if you're trying to stay low key, ride around neighborhoods, wheelie around, kind of just go around the city or whatever, the Surron's definitely going to keep you way more low key and out of trouble, out of the eyes of the cops and whatnot. And those are going to be the main differences when comparing an electric dirt bike like the Surron, kind of a hybrid between an e-bike and a dirt bike, versus a full-size dirt bike like the YZ450. I just wanted to make this video just for anyone wondering what the real life differences are and how they affect riding and where you can ride, what your experience riding is going to be like. But if you've been watching the channel, you can definitely tell I've been mainly riding the Surron, and that's just because it is so much easier to just get on and ride, stay low key. It's not as big of a commitment as getting on the YZ. So keep that in mind. If you're someone that's not really gonna put in the effort to go out and ride, and you just want something to mess around on that's easy, doesn't feel like as big of a endeavor to go out and ride, the Surron is definitely going to be a better choice. You probably get more use out of it. Anyways, that's the end of that one. Thank you guys for watching. If you like dirt bikes and Surrons, wheelies, and trail riding, definitely check out my other videos. Like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And I'll see you next video.
I ain't really into popping off, cause begging ain't my type. Finna put a bench in my parking lot, and my brothers shoot, they don't fight. So we don't really sit and just talk a lot. Don't think I had an off night. She see me slide in that parking lot, I think she like the off-white. And no, I really don't say a lot, they heard and know what I did. Can't wait until